Hey, Cashflow Tactics fans. We got Jimmy and Brad, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects today called how you can get your own middle-class welfare payment.
See, Jimmy, these are the webinars where we leave Ryan and Bob off it and we just geek out on economics and political economics and all the fun stuff we like, right?
Yeah, they don't like to get in that much into the details.
Nope. But we're going to make it really digestible for everybody on the webinar today or on the watching the video today and explain what Jimmy means. Because Jimmy, what do you mean by a middle-class welfare payment?
You're going to get free money from the government, and then you're going to invest it, and then you're going to get passive income back. And I know there could be some highly conservative people watching this and getting all outraged and angry and like, I don't live off the government. I don't do this. I don't do that. I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying this advantage is out there, and you probably have an FHA loan on your personal mortgage, so you're already doing this. So.
Exactly. We're around people all the time, and this is why you and I are doing this webinar, because we geek out on this a little bit more than the average person, where there's lots of people out there that'll say, oh, we need to get rid of the Federal Reserve, and we need to change lending and interest rates and all this stuff. And the answer to all of that is yes, we need to do that. But then when it comes time to tactical approaches that you can do yourself, like to advance yourself financially, like our website here says, to how to collapse time in our financial situation, we've got to look at what we can do with the resources that are given to us. And this, what we're going to explain in this video, is a resource that most people leave untapped because of a core belief around the concept, but not understanding how that core belief doesn't necessarily translate to the implementation that we're going to talk about. Is that a fair way to say it? More complicated way to say it?
Yeah, and to second what you're saying about end the Fed, we all think that should happen, but you can stay angry in your little libertarian blogs or Republican blogs and think you're going to change things at the ballot box, but that's bullshit. So probably around 4 or 5 years ago, I came to the conclusion that, hey, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. Now, Jimmy, fortunately, is not becoming a politician, fortunately for everybody, nor is he running for office, nor is he trying to take money out of your pocket. What Jimmy is saying is the money is on the table and somebody is going to use it. Why not a producer? Why not use the benefits that are already out there?
Using it. Unless you have a private loan against your house, you're already using this.
Yep. So we're just going to show you how to do this with, we're showing how and why you should do this with your rental properties, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at the mortgage world for just a minute. Just in the mortgage world in general, I think everybody would agree that interest rates are artificially low, right? I don't think there's anybody that would disagree with that. Yeah. At 4% mortgages, that's artificially low. So like Jimmy, like you were saying, the rate that you're getting on your own home right now is subsidized. It's subsidized by the government.
Well, not only is it subsidized on the rate, but it's subsidized on the term.
Yeah, what bank with its own money or investors' money would ever invest that over a 30-year time period?
Right.
Okay? Nobody would do that.
To build the middle class, the powers that be have said, hey, if you check X, Y, and Z box, we'll give you a 30-year loan based on a piece of real estate at 4 to 5%.
Yep. Okay. So based on that, what most people don't understand, and most people understand that they can get that on their primary residence. Okay. But when it comes to real estate investing, Jimmy, you come across this, I come across this all the time. People are like, hey, I want to buy a $75,000 rental property, but I don't have $75,000. So what do investors do?
They listen to Dave Ramsey and say, I'm going to save up $75,000 of after-tax income, and then I'm going to start my investing portfolio.
Yep. Or they just say, I can't do real estate. I don't know where people would come up with $75,000. I'm going to keep shoving $5,000 a year into my IRA, right? Okay. And what people are missing is you don't have to come up with the entire $75,000. And it's actually completely polar opposite of what you might think. Most people think only the successful, the experienced, the wealthy real estate investors can get financing for their properties.
No, this is the best part. Like for me and Bob's portfolio, once we figured out what we were doing, the banks cut us off.
Mm-hmm.
But when I had a W-2 job, any bank I went to says, sure, we'll lend to you.
Yep. Because what people don't understand is on residential real estate, anything 1 to 4 units, the bank doesn't care about the property at all. All it has to do is check the box of an appraisal, and that's it. The rest of it is all looked at the borrower themselves.
Right.
And the borrower, W-2 is like gold to a bank. Okay? So if you have a W-2 job.
And they're used to dealing with real estate investors like Bob and I who have no W-2.
And they can't process that. The average bank or loan officer, everybody, because 99% of the world are employees, 99% of the world are not doing what you and I are doing and what we're teaching other people to do. And so there isn't a box for them. But there is a box for all the people with this W-2 income, and they'll lend money to you all day long. So Jimmy, can you get more bank loans against your property?
I can get more bank loans, but they all have balloons.
At what point in time?
I can get, so I'm gonna have to pay 1.5 over FHA, and I'm gonna be on a 3 to 5 year balloon.
Yeah. So Jimmy's got to make this a very short-term investment, and that sort of goes against what we talk about here at Cash Flow Tactics, where we're building long-term sustainable cash flow.
It's
right?
just that balloon payment adds uncertainty. It adds different risk.
Because what if the market changes in 3 years?
Yeah.
Now you've got an issue with it, and this is what collapses a lot of bigger real estate investors or unexperienced real estate investors that load up on balloon payments.
Yep.
This is not sustainable. It's not a great way to go. Myself, I can't even get a balloon payment at this point. Like I'm not like Jimmy, you've kind of come back around and they'll look at you a little bit because you've got enough experience, but I'm in no man's land.
Right.
Ryan and I combined, we're somewhere around 30 properties, and we're in no man's land. That's not enough to be on the radar for bigger financing opportunities like you're looking at, but we've already crossed the threshold of government subsidized financing. So we can't do anything without bringing on a credit partner or raising capital or just paying cash. So we're kind of stuck when it comes to that.
Yep.
But so this opportunity for most people out there, and if you're listening to this, if you have a W-2 and you have just a loan on your primary residence, you can go out and get loans for all of these rental properties, which basically means the government is going to subsidize your purchase of cash flowing real estate. And all the examples we give in Cash Flow Tactics, all the math, all this science of collapsing time that we're talking about here, all works. And actually, the more leverage we use, the better it works. But it's not only available to people that are going to pay cash.
But it's not just leverage, Brad. It's government protected leverage. You get a lower rate and you get a longer term because you qualify as a middle class debtor that they're willing to subsidize.
Yep. And we can go off we talked about, should we go off onto the tangent of why the government wants to be in this business of mortgages and everything. And we can, but it's irrelevant. The relevant point is they're there.
The bottom line is a W-2 employee, you're getting hammered. You're paying 40% in taxes. So you might as well use these tools called FHA loans in order to get some of your tax liability back.
Yep. So FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, whatever is called a conforming loan, you can use to acquire real estate at subsidized rates. And if you're happy with how much you're paying in taxes, and if you're happy with the benefits you're already getting back from the government, then turn off the webinar now, and you don't need to do anything that we're going to say. But if you feel like you're paying too much in taxes or not getting enough benefit back for it, then this is a chance to get some of that back through understanding that you can use and put as little as 20% down of the purchase price. So on a $75,000 home, that now only requires a $15,000 down payment, and you can be in cash flow immediately from that. And like Jimmy said, it's government protected. So you've got a 30-year amortization. So market swings in the short run are not going to affect the performance of your property. Okay. And because we're using debt, we're actually able to shield all of the income that comes in. So you're not paying any income tax on the income that we're creating. Okay.
I mean,
And this is all possible through that financing that Dave Ramsey and just about everybody else out there is going to tell you not to use. It's a literal gold mine sitting in front of you.
I mean, the first person to expose me to this idea was Peter Schiff. I was still in my job. And as you know, Peter, he's pretty Austrian, but he also, he can't stand the Fed. He's definitely a bear. He always thinks the market's going down. But he was the first one to say, if I was a regular middle class guy trying to get an investment portfolio, I would find a piece of cash flowing real estate and I would go get a government loan to purchase it, and then I would take all the cash flow.
Yep. And that's exactly the formula that we teach the average investor. The best starting point for the average investor is load up on 8 or 9, depending on how many mortgages you have, of these small cash flowing pieces of real estate. That's going to be the first bump to give you the cash flow to either exit the rat race or double your savings rate for most people, and then and collapse the time between, because the path you're on right now, if you're listening to traditional financial advice, it's a 40-year path for this to work. And that's the whole idea of compounding, right? We've got to get enough momentum that we finally get on the back end of that compounding curve to be able to have any meaningful accumulation of capital. Okay. But through leveraging this, we can accelerate that growth, and we can take, and this is the difference. This is the frustrating part. Like, and Jimmy, you've heard this before, and it's funny that you mentioned Peter Schiff, because I've also heard Peter Schiff bag on real estate because he's like, well, the market has always outperformed the appreciation of real estate. Mm-hmm. You ever heard that argument? That's true.
Not out of him, but.
Okay, I thought there was anyway.
But I don't pay attention to it because I look for cash flow. I don't care if it appreciates.
Exactly. And we don't like real estate because it will appreciate better than the stock market. Although that's what the way Wall Street will look at it and analyze it is they don't know anything except appreciation. So that's all that they can analyze it with. And true.
Well, it's not only Wall Street. There's no formal term in economics to say that there's not a formal term for cash flow.
Right.
Because technically P&L isn't the same.
It's not as valued. Everything is measured on the balance sheet. Everything's measured in net worth. Okay. But what we're allowed to do is accelerate that process. So we're able to generate cash flow immediately, which the market basically can never do without you actively being involved in it. And then the second piece to that is, let's take a long-term 3% appreciation rate. If we didn't have to come out of pocket for all of that, because for your Wall Street investments, you have to come out of pocket 100% of it. But for real estate, you only have to put 20% down.
Well, you could call it OPM, or you could just call it your tax liability for 2 years. You're basically just able to borrow it back.
Exactly. And then we take those 1 to 3% appreciations in these markets and we multiply them by 5. And we're seeing 5 to 15% rates of return in your pocket because you get all of the increase in value, but you only have to come out of pocket for 20% of it.
Well, hey, Brad, invite him to the webinar. And then tomorrow's video, we'll show the numbers.
Ooh, I get to show numbers. Okay, so the webinar here, this should be running pretty much all the time for the rest of the time because we get so many people say, I love your little videos, but how do I know if this works for me? How do I get a little bit more detail before I call you guys up to meet one-on-one? This is the way to do it. We're doing a weekly webinar where we go into detail about all the topics that we're covering here. It's usually lasts between an hour, hour and a half. We typically leave time for questions at the end. So this is your chance to really jump on. If you've ever had any interest in anything that we talk about, learning more detail around it. So you can go here. The URL up top is wrong. It sort of redirects when you type it in, but it's cashflowtactics.com/ninja. We'll take you right to this page. So /ninja, NINJA. We'll take you here, register for the next webinar we have, and then be sure to attend live so that you can get all of your questions answered on learning the detail behind what we're talking about.
All right. We'll have the numbers up in tomorrow's video.
Okay.
See you guys.